Rome was not built in a day, but some things can be uncovered in one. Archaeologists working in the Italian capital recently made a sensational find beneath the busy Via Sacra, one of Rome's oldest streets. They discovered an ancient stone door that had been sealed shut almost 2,000 years ago, and when they finally pried it open, they found something that had remained hidden from modern eyes for all that time. But what exactly did the team find behind the sealed door? What do we know about the mysterious chamber beyond? And why might the Romans have gone to such lengths to keep it hidden? Join us as we unlock this mystery and bring you the details of this incredible archaeological discovery. The year was 27 BC. Octavian, who would later become the first emperor of Rome, Augustus, had just returned to his home city after defeating his enemies in a civil war. It was a huge victory for the young leader, and he wanted to commemorate it with an impressive building project. So he decided to build a temple dedicated to his absent father and the war god Mars. The site he chose was in the Forum Magnum, the most important square in Roman society. In fact, it was right next to the Roman Senate, which made it an ideal location for a structure intended to glorify the divine origins of his dynasty. But while historians know that the temple existed, they don't know much more than that, since it was destroyed in a fire in AD 80 by the infamous Domitian, and then again in AD 191 by a magnitude 7.5 earthquake. But all that changed recently when archaeologists began excavations in the area. Their goal was to get to the bottom of how the street above, the Via Sacra, came to be. Over the course of their work, they discovered a previously unknown complex of rooms beneath the road, including a large rectangular structure measuring 43 feet by 26 feet. What's more, its thick walls were adorned with exedra, a type of niche commonly used in Roman temples. However, the most interesting part of the structure was its entrance, or rather its apparent lack thereof. There didn't seem to be any way to get in or out of the building. That was until they spotted a small opening near the floor. When they looked through it, they could see a tunnel leading into darkness. It wasn't long before the team realized they had stumbled upon something truly unique. After all, there was only one reason the Romans would have concealed a passage like this: to keep whatever was inside from being seen. So the researchers carefully removed stones to widen the hole and let more light into the tunnel. Then they descended into the darkness to see what lay at the end. As they went deeper, the air grew colder and damper, and they could hear the sound of dripping water. But perhaps even stranger was the smell. At first, they couldn't quite place it, but soon they realized that it was the musky odor of decay. And it meant only one thing. The passage led to a tomb. They were still deep inside the shaft when they saw it, an opening ahead where the tunnel ended. And as their lights flickered across the interior, they saw that it was filled with bones. The explorers realized that they were standing in a burial chamber, and based on the Latin inscriptions covering the walls, it belonged to two prominent Roman women named Livia and Anna. But they quickly noticed something else. Someone had taken great pains to block off access to the tomb. In fact, the only way in was through the secret tunnel. Why would they do that? Well, the answer may lie in another inscription, this one carved on the archway framing the entrance. Its words are a warning to anyone who dares disturb the dead. Trespassers will incur the wrath of the lares, the guardians of the household, and the penalty for doing so will be most severe. But while it may seem like a superstitious story, there is evidence that these warnings may have had a basis in reality. Throughout ancient Rome, people believed that every house and property had a guardian spirit called a lar, and they took their duty seriously. People left offerings for the lar in special shrines in their homes and even held festivals in their honor. But the spirits were also known to make their displeasure known, and that often resulted in punishments that were both painful and humiliating. In fact, there were several cases of Romans who claimed to have witnessed the lair's wrath firsthand. According to their stories, if someone disrespected their property, the spirits could manifest in terrifying ways. They might shake the house, rattle chains, or even interact with people directly. One story tells of a man who urinated in a lar's shrine. The next morning, he awoke with a terrible bladder infection, and another man was said to have been struck with blindness after killing a fly in a sacred enclosure. Of course, these stories should probably be taken with a grain of salt, but it's clear that the Romans believed the Lares to be powerful forces to be reckoned with. And it makes sense why the spirits would have been particularly protective of this tomb. After all, it was the final resting place of two women who came from one of the most influential families in Rome, the Acilia. Their wealth and status meant that they had access to the best that Roman culture had to offer, including a lavish burial and a prime piece of real estate in the Forum. And yet, that was far from the whole story. For whatever reason, their family name had been erased from history, possibly because it was linked to a rival political party, and now their graves were being sealed away from public view. But it's not the only indication of unrest beneath the surface. During their work, the team also found animal bones and broken amphoras, a type of ceramic storage vessel. These discoveries suggest that the chamber may have once been used for ritual purposes, and that idea is supported by the strange behavior of the soil. You see, the bones had been buried deep beneath the surface, over 26 feet below ground, which was extremely unusual in Roman culture. Typically, their ancestors' remains were kept in family tombs close to the surface. But in this case, it seems as though the family wanted to keep their relatives' remains as hidden as possible. It's possible that they feared grave robbers, but that doesn't explain why they would go to such extreme lengths to conceal them. Another theory is that the Romans intentionally buried the bones in order to erase any trace of the family's existence. If that was the case, they succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. For nearly 2,000 years, their names were lost to history, and it wasn't until very recently that archaeologists managed to identify them using epigraphy, the study of ancient inscriptions. They discovered that Livia was the daughter of Marcus Aemilius Lepidus, one of the most powerful men in Rome during the late Republic. But that wasn't the end of their investigation. They also found clues that pointed to a dark conspiracy. You see, Lepidus had been implicated in the murder of Gaius, Caesar's grandnephew and heir. While he never faced trial for his involvement, the family's reputation was tarnished forever. And it appears that whoever built the temple where the tomb was found tried to capitalize on the public's short memory. They put up a false inscription naming the tomb after two Vestal virgins instead of the Acilia sisters. This was an obvious attempt to distance themselves from the controversial family and their association with murder. But what really happened here? Was this a case of mistaken identity, or was the builder deliberately trying to cover up his crime? Unfortunately, there is no way to know for sure, but it's clear that this tomb was a closely guarded secret for many years. Even after Rome fell and new rulers took the reins, nobody disturbed the burial chamber. It wasn't until the Christians seized control of the city in AD 380 that the seal was broken. But the desecration didn't stop there. According to legend, the Christians went from church to church destroying the idols and shutting down pagan worship. They must have turned this tomb into a church at some point, but nobody knows exactly when. However, we do know that they didn't stay for long. By the Middle Ages, the area had been abandoned, and the land was reclaimed by the Tiber River. Today, all that remains of the structure is a crumbling wall along the bank. But despite the centuries that have passed, the Acilia sisters' story is just as fascinating as ever. Not only did they come from one of Rome's most powerful families, but their lives spanned a pivotal moment in history. They witnessed the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire, and saw Rome transform from a city of decline to one of unparalleled prosperity. And now they've given us a rare glimpse into what life was like in the days of the Caesars. But unfortunately, their story isn't over yet. See, their remains were never recovered from the tomb. The team that found it simply reburied the bones where they had lain for almost 2,000 years. But that decision was met with widespread criticism. Many people felt that the team should have brought the remains to the surface and given them a proper burial. And that's still a contentious issue today. Some people argue that the bones belong in a museum where everyone can learn about them. but others say they should be laid to rest in a cemetery. As for where the debate will end, well, only time will tell. But one thing's for certain. The story of Livia and Anna will continue to fascinate people for generations to come. When you descend into the earth, there's an almost universal truth that you will encounter. The deeper you go, the colder it gets. This is due to a number of factors, including the fact that the average temperature of the Earth's core is about 9,320 degrees Fahrenheit, or 5,160 degrees Celsius. But for now, let's just say that if you dig deep enough, you're bound to get cold. So when a team of archaeologists discovered a series of tunnels beneath an old church in Edinburgh, Scotland, they brought along plenty of warm clothes. What they didn't bring was a way to defend themselves against whatever might be waiting for them down there. It all started back in 2014 when local residents were working to clean up the historic Greyfriars Kirkyard. It's been used as a burial ground since 1820. But before that, it had been the site of a hospital and a prison during the turbulent days of the Scottish Reformation. In fact, the prison cells are still visible, etched into the graveyard wall like a scar. But those aren't the ones that our story is concerned with. Instead, we'll have to descend 25 feet, or 7.6 meters below the surface where the recently deceased were once laid to rest. That's because someone had dug a tunnel under the graveyard and connected it to a long forgotten crypt, essentially creating a makeshift grave. With no other leads, the archaeological team decided to follow the tunnel. It was barely wide enough for a person to fit through, so they removed the dirt by hand. As they descended, the air grew colder, the silence growing more oppressive. They hadn't brought any lights, so the only thing illuminating their path was their imaginations. And their imaginations weren't much use when they needed to identify what the tunnel walls were covered in. As they continued their descent, they saw that the walls were carved with strange Latin phrases. Some were religious, but many were disturbingly violent. Others were covered in what looked like dried blood. And even though none of the researchers could read Latin, they knew that this was no place for the recently departed to rest in peace. There was something deeply unsettling about the tone of the carvings. Something foul and evil seemed to seep from the stone. But the team pressed on until they reached the end of the tunnel. And there it was, the crypt. It was quite large, considering how small the entrance was, and it felt like another world. The air was thick with moisture and the smell of damp earth. It was also significantly colder than the outside temperature, probably 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius. The archaeologists put their hands into the damp walls to orient themselves. They needed to make sense of the layout, find anything useful, and hopefully get out without being trapped here forever. They soon noticed 3 passages leading further into the crypt. One went straight ahead. Another turned sharply to the right. The third passage went down, actually leading downwards instead of further into the earth. That last detail was odd. All crypts are underground. So why would they have dug a hole going downwards? The team split up so they could cover more ground, sending one person down the left passage, one down the right, and the third into the hole that led down deeper into the earth. The passage on the left quickly proved fruitless. After 10 minutes, the researcher came across a wall and found nothing else of interest. He turned around and began walking back when he heard something behind him. It was too soft to make out any words, but it definitely sounded like someone whispering. Was it the wind? Maybe. Or was it something more sinister? He called out into the darkness, his voice echoing around him. "Hello, is anyone there?" There was no reply. A little unnerved, he continued his journey back to the main chamber. Then he heard it again, a whisper close behind him. "Run." Whatever had made the sound seemed to melt away into the darkness. The man told himself it was just his imagination, a trick played by the dim oil lamp lighting and the damp acoustics of the crypt. But as he walked, the whispers continued. And then one of the researchers called out, "Hey guys, come over here." They all rushed to his side. "Look at this," he said, gesturing to the floor. Someone had smashed a flashlight, most likely the one carried by the person who had gone down the hole. But that person wasn't there. He had vanished. They called out for him, their voices echoing unanswered through the tomb. They knew that they should leave, but something compelled them to keep searching. Maybe the morbid curiosity that always accompanies stories like these. Maybe because no one had explored this place in centuries, or maybe because they owed it to their missing friend to find him. Whatever the reason, they split up again, each taking a different passage. As they explored, they discovered more disturbing graffiti, some of which seemed almost demonic in nature. They also found more whispers. They seemed to follow the researchers, slithering around them and brushing against their ears. Each time they called out, the whispers stopped, but moments later they began again. Then the researchers realized that they weren't alone. Someone or something was down here with them. It moved just beyond their sight, rustling the dry leaves that had fallen into the crypt over the years. They could hear its footsteps, too, scurrying and skittering just beyond their vision. It was big, too, whatever it was, bigger than a rat or a dog. And it was fast. The researchers ran for the exit, stumbling over one another in the pitch-black space. They didn't want to think about what was chasing them, didn't want to imagine what might happen if it caught them. But they didn't need to imagine it. The whispers did that for them. Louder now, more urgent. It was close behind them, gaining on them. They could hear its raspy breaths and feel its hot, fetid breath on their necks. They burst from the tunnel and collapsed on the ground, gasping for breath. They huddled together in the relative safety of the graveyard, the whispers now silent. Then one of the men broke down. He said he was never going back down there. The others understood. They knew that whatever was down there had chased them away. It took some time, but eventually they agreed to return to the crypt. They brought flashlights this time, along with cameras and plenty of holy water. Before entering, they made the sign of the cross and said a few prayers. Then they descended into the dark pit, gripping their crucifixes tightly. In the flickering light, they saw that the smashed flashlight had belonged to Richard, the man who had disappeared. But they found no trace of him. They did find more disturbing carvings, including one of a demon with outstretched wings. They also found bones, hundreds of them. It looked like whatever was down here had collected them, arranged them. It had ritualistic tendencies. They explored every nook and cranny, checked every shadow, but they found no evidence of Richard or anything else. Finally, they left the crypt, not daring to turn their backs on the darkness within. They locked the entrance behind them, sealing the evil inside. At least they thought they had. Back in Edinburgh, the crypt became a tourist attraction. People paid admission for the chance to explore the allegedly haunted tunnels, but many complained of feeling cold spots and hearing whispers. The researchers even returned, expecting to find vandals hiding in the shadows, but found nothing. Or rather, they found no one. For some reason, the whispers continued. Soon after, paranormal investigators showed up, bringing equipment that could detect electromagnetic fields and measure radiation levels. They found spikes in both, along with traces of what looked like blood. They also captured audio of what sounded like screams and disembodied voices. Still, Richard was never found, and neither was the source of the whispers. Theories abound, ranging from the mundane to the macabre. Perhaps it was simply the wind playing tricks on everyone. Or maybe something darker is at work. Did the construction workers disturb something they shouldn't have when they dug the tunnel? And what was that tunnel doing under a hospital and prison anyway? Could it have been part of an even larger, more sinister plot? Or is there something evil stirring in the darkness beneath Edinburgh? We may never know. But that doesn't mean the whispers can't haunt our nightmares. You wake up slowly, your head pounding like a blacksmith's hammer on an anvil. You open your eyes to see darkness pressing in from all sides. Coughing, you realize you're lying on cold, hard stone. Panic claws at your throat as you scramble to sit up. Where are you? How did you get here? Fragments of memories from the night before come crashing back. Running, hiding, the temple, and then nothing. Then you hear a sound that makes your blood run cold. A low, guttural growl that seems to emanate from the very walls themselves. You find yourself in a vast chamber, so large it's impossible to discern its boundaries in the darkness. The only illumination comes from a single shaft of moonlight piercing through a crack in the ceiling far above, and what that sliver of light reveals makes the hair on the back of your neck stand on end. The walls are lined with thousands upon thousands of skulls. Some are ancient, weathered by time and caked in dirt, while others look disturbingly fresh, as though the individuals who once wore them are still among the living. Your gaze is drawn to the center of the chamber where a large stone altar stands, its surface stained a deep, unsettling black. The sight sends a chill down your spine. What kind of place is this? And why do you feel as though you're being watched? As if summoned by your thoughts, the growling sound rises again, echoing around you. Then you notice something even more horrifying. The skulls lining the walls are beginning to turn, their hollow eye sockets fixated on you. It's then you realize this place is not just ancient, it's also alive, and whatever's stirring within it is hungry. Welcome back to the channel. Now, let's begin. The last thing you remember is fleeing for your life, pursued by something sinister and implacable. You don't recall the specifics, not clearly anyway, but you know there was nowhere left to run. So, you hid. You found this place, perhaps hoping to disappear into its darkness. But now you're trapped, caught in the grip of an ancient evil that's just waking up. Before you is the grand hall of a long, dead civilization. Skulls line the walls, each one a silent witness to some gruesome ritual. The air is thick with the stench of decay and the oppressive feeling that you're not alone. In the flickering light of the torch you found on your way in, you can make out strange glyphs carved into the walls depicting scenes of unimaginable horror. A low growl rumbles from the shadows, sending shivers down your spine. Your companions huddle close, their faces pale in the torchlight. One of them, let's call him Torin, steps forward, his voice barely a whisper. "We need to get out of here," he says, gesturing to the skulls that seem to be watching you with their empty sockets. "Whatever this place is, it's not safe." His eyes dart around nervously, searching for an escape, but the deeper he ventures into the chamber, the more the skulls around him begin to turn, as though responding to his intrusion. You exchange uneasy glances with your companions. Who knows how long you've been trapped here? Days, weeks, maybe even months. Time has lost all meaning within these four walls, but you can't stay here forever. You have to make a move. But where to go? There are no doors, no windows, only the endless skulls and the growing sense of dread. Suddenly, Braden, another member of your group, gasps, pointing to a spot near the altar. "Look," he whispers, his voice trembling. You turn your head slowly and your blood runs cold. A skull has fallen from the wall, clattering to the floor. It wasn't there before. You could have sworn you examined every inch of this chamber. How could it have gotten there without you seeing? The implications send a shiver down your spine. Whatever's stirring in the depths below is awakening. The silence is shattered by a deep rumble that seems to shake the very foundations of the temple. The ground trembles beneath your feet and the skulls lining the walls clatter ominously. The growling sound is back, louder and more menacing than before. From the corner of your eye, you see movement, a slight shift in the shadows cast by the torches. Your heart pounds in your chest as you watch the darkness coalesce into a horrifying shape. Emerging from the shadows is a creature like nothing you've ever seen before. Its skin is a sickly green, stretched taut over bones that seem to be shifting and rearranging themselves. Its eyes glow with an eerie red light, fixing on you with a cold, reptilian stare. Claws the size of daggers scrape against the stone floor as it takes a step toward you. Each movement is unsettling, as though it's testing its own strength after a long slumber. Panic threatens to overwhelm you, but you fight to keep calm. You have to think of a plan, any plan. But how can you escape something that's both nightmare and reality? You consider your options. To run now would be pointless. The creature is faster than you could ever hope to be. To fight is equally futile. What weapons could you possibly use against such a monstrosity? You're trapped, cornered by an ancient evil you never knew existed. And as the creature advances, its eyes boring into yours, you realize this is only the beginning. You brace for the inevitable, wondering if there's anything left of humanity within you that won't be ripped apart by the creature's claws. The air grows heavy with the stench of decay and death as the beast closes in, its hot, fetid breath washing over you. You can feel its predatory gaze weighing you up, assessing you as though you were nothing more than prey. But then, something unexpected happens. The creature stops its advance, tilting its head as if sensing something beyond your perception. Its glowing eyes flicker away from you, focusing on the altar behind you. Slowly, almost hesitantly, it begins to circle you, keeping a safe distance. You don't know what it wants, but you suspect it has something to do with the altar. With a surge of adrenaline, you turn to see what has so captivated the creature's attention. The altar is pulsating with a faint, eerie light. Runes etched into its surface are glowing faintly, matching the color of the creature's eyes. It's almost as if the altar itself is calling to the beast, beckoning it closer. What will you do? You can flee, trying to put as much distance between you and this nightmare as possible. You can fight, hoping to land a lucky blow and perhaps drive the creature back. Or you can investigate the altar, hoping to uncover some clue as to how to stop this nightmare. The choice is yours, survivor, and the fate of your world hangs in the balance. So what will you do? Will you flee, fight, or investigate? Let me know in the comments section, and, as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please hit the like button and subscribe for more terrifying tales. Until next time, sleep tight. The smell of stale waste permeates the air, mingling with the stench of decay that clings to these catacombs like a shroud. Flickering torchlight dances on the damp walls, casting dancing shadows that writhe and twist like tormented souls. These subterranean tunnels, once bustling with life, are now a labyrinth of death, a chilling monument to the countless lives extinguished here. The silence is heavy, broken only by the drip, drip, drip of water echoing through the vast emptiness. The air grows colder, heavier, each breath a struggle against the oppressive weight of the unseen. And then, from the darkness, a shape begins to stir. Welcome, weary travelers, to the Catacombs. Beneath the bustling city, hidden from the eyes of the living, lies a subterranean labyrinth known as the Catacombs. Here, in the heart of the earth, the souls of the departed find their eternal rest, or perhaps their restless torment. Legend has it that the catacombs hold more than just the bones of the dead. Some say that the very air here is heavy with spirits, whispering tales of their suffering and sorrow. Others claim to have seen apparitions that emerge from the shadows, fleeting glimpses of figures lost to time. But perhaps the most terrifying legend of all is that of the Catacombs Keeper, a shadowy figure who is said to guard these underground passages, ensuring that those who enter do not leave unscathed. Some say the Catacombs Keeper was once a humble priest who dedicated his life to serving the church and caring for the dead. He walked among the catacombs, a beacon of hope in the darkness, offering prayers and solace to the grieving. However, as the years passed, whispers began to circulate about the priest's unusual practices. They say he spent an excessive amount of time in the catacombs, emerging only when absolutely necessary. During his infrequent visits to the surface, people noticed a disturbing change in him. His skin grew pale and his eyes took on a haunting, otherworldly glow. Some even claimed to see dark markings appearing on his robes, symbols of a power he had unwittingly unleashed. Then one day, the priest vanished, leaving behind only rumors and speculation. Some said he had been taken by the spirits of the catacombs, forever trapped in their ethereal embrace. Others whispered that he had made a pact with sinister forces, trading his soul for forbidden knowledge and power. Whatever the truth may be, the priest was never seen again, and the catacombs became shrouded in mystery and fear. And so it was that the Catacombs Keeper was born, a specter of dread that haunts the catacombs to this day. Emerging from the shadows, he stalks the catacombs, a silent, unseen guardian of the dead. Those who hear his approach describe a creeping dread that seeps into their bones, a harbinger of misfortune that signals their imminent demise. With a raspy whisper, he warns trespassers that they have trespassed in a sacred place, that the catacombs will not relinquish their hold on the living so easily. And then he demands an offering, a price to be paid for disturbing the eternal rest of the dead. But what form does this offering take? Some say the catacombs keeper seeks tangible offerings, items of value or precious metals that can appease his ethereal hunger. Others claim that he desires something far more sinister, the life essence of the living. Legend has it that the catacombs keeper possesses the ability to drain the vitality from those who enter his domain, leaving them withered husks of their former selves. This life force is said to sustain him, keeping him eternally bound to the catacombs and fueling his other nefarious purposes. But why does the catacombs keeper demand an offering at all? Is it simply a test of character, a way to weed out the unworthy from those seeking knowledge of the forbidden? Or is there something more sinister at play? Some say the catacombs keeper is driven by an insatiable hunger, a bottomless pit of darkness that can never be filled. Others claim he is merely a vessel, a conduit through which a more sinister entity feeds. Whatever the truth may be, those who refuse to pay the catacombs keeper's price do so at their own peril. For some, the offering is merely a test, a challenge to their courage and resolve. When the catacombs keeper demands his due, they step forward without hesitation, offering whatever he desires. And though the ordeal leaves them shaken and changed, they are allowed to depart the catacombs with their lives intact. However, for others, the catacombs keeper's demands prove to be too great. Some refuse to part with their valuables, clinging to their worldly possessions with a death grip. Others cannot bear the thought of sacrificing their life essence, fearing the consequences of such an exchange. In these cases, the catacombs keeper is said to become enraged, unleashing his full power upon the hapless trespasser. What happens next is anyone's guess, lost forever in the subterranean depths. Some say the catacombs keeper drags his victims deeper into the catacombs, where they are never seen again. Others claim that he drains their life essence, leaving them as hollow shells before banishing them from his domain. But perhaps the most gruesome legend of all is that the catacombs keeper sacrifices his victims, using their life essence to fuel his own powers and appease whatever sinister entity lurks within the catacombs. Now, the question is, what happens when someone actually pays the catacombs keeper's price? Is it a ticket to freedom? A passport to the surface world? Not necessarily. Some say that when the catacombs keeper is appeased, he allows those who have trespassed to leave his domain unharmed, forever changed by their experience, but alive nonetheless. However, others claim that the catacombs keeper is never truly satisfied, and those who pay his price find themselves trapped in his eternal game. Once the offering is complete, the catacombs keeper is said to vanish into the shadows, leaving his victims to wander the catacombs for eternity forever, haunted by his presence and the knowledge that they have become part of his twisted design. In the end, the fate of those who venture into the catacombs remains shrouded in mystery and fear. Some return forever changed by their encounter with the catacombs keeper, while others disappear into the darkness, lost to the eternal night. As you navigate these underground labyrinths, remember that every shadow holds a secret, every whisper a warning, for the catacombs are not just a place of death, but a realm where the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest, where the spirits of the departed linger, and where the catacombs keeper watches, always watching, waiting for his next offering. As the flames sputtered, casting long dancing shadows on the tomb-strewn floor, a hush fell over the group. No one dared break the silence, not even to breathe. They were caught in the grip of an unseen terror, paralyzed by the promise of death. Suddenly, the catacombs keeper raised his gnarled hand, his shadowed face inches from Elias's own. A guttural voice like stones grinding together echoed through the chamber. "You have trespassed in a sacred place, mortals, and disturbed the eternal rest of the departed." His words dripped with menace, each syllable a hammer blow that shook Elias to his core. "For this, you shall pay the price." A low growl rumbled in the Catacombs keeper's throat, and the air grew heavy with foreboding. The circle of light flickered, revealing rows upon rows of tombs, each holding secrets best left undisturbed. "The Catacombs demand a sacrifice," the keeper rasped, his eyes burning like embers in the gloom. "An offering of life to appease the spirits of the restless dead." His gaze locked onto Elias, boring into him with an intensity that stole his breath away. "Choose wisely, mortal, for the price of entry is steep." With trembling hands, Elias reached into his cloak, his fingers brushing against the pendant hidden beneath. It was a pendant he rarely revealed, not because of its value, but due to the memories it evoked. A love lost, a life forever changed. Yet in this moment of dire need, it was his only bargaining chip, a last resort. He held it out to the Catacombs keeper, the pendant shimmering faintly in the torchlight. "Take this," Elias whispered, his voice hoarse with emotion. "It is all I have." The Catacombs keeper regarded the pendant, his expression unreadable in the flickering shadows. A low chuckle rumbled in his chest, sending chills down Elias's spine. "Such trinkets hold no power here, mortal," he said finally, his voice laced with disdain. "Only the essence of life can appease the spirits of the Catacombs." As the Catacombs keeper reached out, his touch sending a jolt of fear through Elias, he realized he was in grave danger. The pendant, his last hope, lay abandoned on the ground, forgotten in the face of the Catacombs keeper's relentless pursuit. What would become of him now? Would he become another offering to the restless dead? They burst through the far wall, leaving the crypt and the torment of the whispers behind. And for a moment they are met with blessed silence. But the peace doesn't last. They have no time to savor it. The tunnel they had broken through opens into a vast cavern, the ceiling lost in the gloom above. Before them lies a huge chamber stretching out like an underground basilica. In the flickering lamplight, Elena can make out rows upon rows of statues lining the walls, silent sentries frozen in mid-stride or poised with weapons raised in salute. The faces of many have been battered beyond recognition, but some still bear the mark of their creator's genius, beautiful even in decay, noble even in ruin. One such statue is that of a woman. She stands draped in fine robes, holding aloft a shield emblazoned with a sun, and at her feet lies a sword. Elena cannot look away from the radiance of the sculpture. It is as if the stone has drunk the moonlight and distilled it into pure, cold silver. Marcus feels a chill despite the stuffiness of the catacombs. He walks toward the far end of the chamber, where a single shaft of daylight pierces the gloom, illuminating motes dancing in the stagnant air. At the base of this shaft, he finds an altar carved with scenes of battle and conquest, and upon it, a heavy chest bound with iron bands. With a grunt, he forces it open and finds within a pile of parchment scrolls, brittle with age. These, too, are bound with iron, as though to keep them from rising and taking flight. Marcus carefully unwraps one of the scrolls and in the flickering lamplight reads, "Tacitus," then looks up sharply when the whisper starts again, slithering through the catacombs like a venomous snake, hissing, "Tacitus, take him." It comes from behind one of the statues, and as he watches, the stony face slowly begins to crack, revealing a sight that would curdle the blood of any living man. What was once a proud soldier is now nothing but a husk, an empty shell animated by some foul, unholy power. Bone claws rip through rotting flesh, and the creature writhes, eager to break free. Behind it, the wall crumbles and more ghouls spill forth, drawn to the sound of their brethren's cries. The survivors scatter, racing deeper into the catacombs. Elena runs until she can run no more, hiding in the shadows as the creatures slink past, seeking her out. She presses herself against the cold stone, heart hammering against her ribs, and wonders if this is the end. Then she hears a voice cut through the darkness. This way. She recognizes the voice as belonging to Lucius, the young Gaul who has impressed her with his courage and skill. He motions with a nod for her to follow, and together they slip through the catacombs, pursued by the whispers and the gnawing fear of what might lie ahead. Finally, Lucius stops before a recess in the wall. In the dim lamplight, Elena can see a series of shelves carved into the stone, upon which are displayed a number of strange objects, some humanoid, others clearly not. In the center, on a small pedestal, is a golden object pulsing with an eerie, unnatural light. As Elena watches, it seems to pulse in time with the whispers, beckoning, pleading. She understands instinctively that this is what they are after, this golden thing. It is the source of the whispers, and it calls to them, offering whatever power it possesses to whoever claims it. But Elena is torn. Something about the artifact fills her with dread. Its light is cold and alien, and she fears the price that must be paid to wield such power. Yet the whispers are growing louder, more insistent. Take it, take it, take it. If she refuses, will they abandon her? Will they leave her here to die in the catacombs? Perhaps. She knows they would not hesitate. This knowledge, the realization of how far her companions are willing to go, both terrifies and saddens her. "Lucius," she says, her voice hoarse, "what are we doing? What is this thing?" But he shakes his head, eyes fixed on the golden idol. "I don't know," he whispers back, voice tight with awe. "But it's ours now." And as if to underscore his words, the whispers erupt in triumph, drowning out all other sounds. Elena stands frozen, torn between her duty to protect the artifact and her fear of the terrible power it represents. She knows that the decision she makes now will have far-reaching consequences, but in the echoing darkness of the catacombs, she cannot hear the whispers. All she sees is the golden idol pulsing with an unnatural light. And then she reaches out and takes it. The moment her fingers close around the cold metal, the catacombs erupt in chaos. Bones rain down from the vaulted ceiling, clattering to the floor like hail. Corridors collapse, sending clouds of dust billowing into the air. And at the far end, the form of the keeper swells, twisting and writhing like a serpent, coiling itself into an ever larger shadow. The whispers reach a fever pitch, shrieking in triumph as the catacombs tremble and groan. Elena screams as the world around her falls apart. Behind her, the young Gaul draws his sword, its blade flashing in the gloom. "Run!" he shouts over the din. "Run for the surface!" And she does, racing blindly through the collapsing tunnels, the golden artifact heavy in her hands. She can feel its power surging through her, corrupting her, twisting her, whispering promises of unimaginable power if she will only yield to its embrace. But Elena fights against it, drawing strength from the memory of her fallen comrades and the hope of a world beyond the catacombs. She bursts out of the crumbling structure, blinking against the sudden brightness of day, gasping for breath. But there is no time to rest. She sees the keeper emerging from the ruins, his form a towering silhouette against the setting sun. His eyes burn with unholy fire, and his voice echoes with terrible power. "You have taken what does not belong to you," he booms, his words laced with venom. "And now you shall pay the price." With a roar, he lunges, and Elena instinctively raises the golden artifact, pointing it at the creature. A blinding flash of light erupts, throwing Elena back. When she looks up, the keeper recoils, shielding his eyes. "What?" he snarls, his voice strained. "What have you done?" But Elena doesn't answer. She can feel the corruption of the artifact fading, its power ebbing away. In its place, a new sensation rises within her, a well of raw power that threatens to consume her. Fear grips her. She doesn't understand this power, but she senses its danger, its potential to twist and corrupt. With a cry, she throws the artifact away, stumbling back as the keeper recovers. "No," he cries out, reaching for the fallen relic, and Elena knows that if he claims it, she and the world may be doomed. But before he can move, the ground trembles. A deep rumble echoes through the air, growing louder with every passing moment. The keeper turns, his eyes widening in alarm as the earth splits asunder, and something massive, something primeval emerges, drawn by the disturbance, the tremors, the clash of titans. Whatever this creature is, it is ancient, powerful, and it hungers for battle. As the keeper confronts this new threat, Elena flees. Stumbling away from the battlefield, she can feel the ground shaking beneath her feet, the very foundations of the world trembling. In the distance, she hears the roar of the awakened monster, and she knows that whatever fate befalls the keeper will have repercussions that could shake the very foundations of Rome. Deep in the bowels of the catacombs, the keeper squares off against the monstrous entity that has risen to answer the disturbance. The air crackles with energy as the two titans clash, their forms silhouetted against the flickering torchlight. The keeper, twisted and corrupted by the dark forces he has unleashed, fights with a savage fury, his every strike aimed at ending the creature's life. But the beast is relentless, its primal strength matched only by its voracious hunger. With a roar that shakes the very foundations of the catacombs, the creature lunges, its jaws wide, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. The keeper leaps aside, narrowly avoiding the snapping jaws, and retaliates with a vicious kick to the creature's knee. The blow sends the beast sprawling, but it quickly recovers, shaking off the pain as if it were but a minor annoyance. The keeper presses his attack, his strikes becoming more desperate, more frantic as the creature's wounds seem to close almost instantly. The beast is too strong, too resilient. With each passing moment, the keeper becomes more fatigued, his movement slower, his breathing heavier. Suddenly, the creature lashes out, catching the keeper off guard and sending him crashing to the ground. The keeper struggles to rise, but the creature is upon him in an instant, pinning him beneath its massive weight. The creature's hot, fetid breath washes over the keeper, and the stench nearly overpowers him. The beast opens its jaws wide and lets out a triumphant roar, and the keeper knows that this is the end. In the flickering torchlight, the creature's eyes gleam with a cold reptilian fire, and the keeper can see nothing but hatred and hunger. He struggles against the creature's crushing weight, but it is no use. The creature is too strong, its grip too tight. The keeper's vision begins to blur, his consciousness slipping away. He sees the golden artifact lying nearby, abandoned in the dust. He wants to reach for it, to claim its power, but he is too weak. His limbs feel heavy, his muscles unresponsive. The creature's jaws open wider, and the keeper closes his eyes, waiting for the inevitable. But the bite never comes. Instead, he hears a crunching sound, and then the creature is upon him, lapping at his wounds, tearing at his flesh. The keeper screams in pain and terror, his voice echoing through the catacombs. The creature is feasting on him, tearing him limb from limb, and there is nothing he can do to stop it. As his life force ebbs away, he realizes that he has been defeated, that Rome may be doomed. The catacombs are lost, and he is the last of the keepers to fall. Hello there. Welcome back. It has been some time since we descended into the Parisian catacombs, and while it is certainly good to be home, I do so hope that you will forgive me for the state of my hair. It was a long road getting here. Today we find ourselves amidst the winding tunnels where centuries of Parisians have met their demise, where over 6 million souls are said to have perished within this underground labyrinth. The air is thick with the scent of decay, and the silence is deafening, broken only by the drip, drip, drip of water echoing through the vast chambers. Our goal today is to reach the very heart of the catacombs, a place where few have ventured before and from which none have ever returned. As we make our way deeper into this subterranean labyrinth, the darkness around us seems to press in, whispering tales of those who have come before us and met their end in this unforgiving place. But enough of this foreboding atmosphere, let's get into the video. Okay, so first things first, we need to talk about this relic that I am holding. Now, this bad boy has been with me for quite a while now, and is actually an extremely important part of the story that I want to tell you today. See, this compass is not your average navigational tool. No, sir, this compass is special. You see, every single time that we venture into the catacombs, I bring this relic with me, and so far it has guided us through the darkest corners of this underground labyrinth. But there's a catch, a big one. This compass only works when you're telling the truth. And let me tell you, the catacombs do not take kindly to liars. So if I were to lie or even mislead you, just a little bit, this compass would start acting up. And when that happens, well, let's just say it makes navigating these tunnels a whole lot harder, if not impossible. And trust me, you don't want to get on the wrong side of this compass because the consequences are dire. Just ask. Okay, let's move on. The tunnel ahead widens into a vast chamber and I feel a chill run down my spine. As we descend deeper into the catacombs, the air grows colder and damper, clinging to us like a shroud. The silence is heavy, pressing down on us as we navigate the twisting tunnels. Suddenly, the faintest glimmer of light appears in the distance. Hope surges through me. Could this be a way out? But as we approach, my hopes are dashed. It's just another false promise of escape offered by these relentless tunnels. The chamber ahead stretches before us, vast and unending. I feel a sense of despair settle over me. Are we truly doomed to wander here forever? With each step, the darkness seems to close in, threatening to consume us. The walls whisper tales of those who have lost their way, their voices mingling with the dripping water to form a haunting chorus. As I turn to you, I see fear etched on your faces. Can I blame you? After all, this place has a way of getting to you, but we must stay strong. There's no other option. Just then, the faintest sound reaches our ears, a distant scratching. At first, we dismiss it as a figment of our imagination, a trick of the catacombs. But as the noise continues, we realize it's something else entirely. Something is coming. I grip my flashlight tighter, its beam dancing in the darkness. My heart pounds in my chest, echoing the relentless scratching. The sound seems to grow louder with each passing moment, driving us deeper into the heart of the catacombs. Suddenly, the scratching stops abruptly. An eerie silence descends, amplifying the sound of our own breathing. Then it begins again, closer this time, as if whatever is making the noise is closing in on us. Panic threatens to overwhelm me. I urge you to keep moving, to run for the exit. But deep down, I know it might be too late. The catacombs have a way of holding on to those who enter, and it seems we may become their next victims. I stumble and fall, dropping my flashlight. The beam disappears, plunging us into absolute darkness. I scramble to find it, my fingers desperately searching for the familiar shape. As the scratching continues, I realize we may never escape this place. The catacombs have claimed another victim. Will we be next? Just then, I feel a cold hand on my shoulder. I freeze, my blood running cold. I slowly turn my head, my eyes struggling to pierce the darkness, and then I see him, the keeper, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly light, his face a mask of shadows and teeth. He leans closer, his voice a raspy whisper. "You shouldn't be here," he hisses, his breath cold on my skin. "This place is not for the living." I struggle to speak, my throat dry with terror, but no words come out. The keeper takes a step back, his gaze boring into mine. "Leave," he commands, "while you still can." His voice echoes through the tunnels, leaving no room for argument. I nod, unable to speak, and turn to flee. Each step I take echoes in the vast chamber, amplifying my fear. Behind me, I hear the keeper's footsteps, slow and deliberate, as if he is toying with me. The exit seems a distant memory, and the darkness around me presses in, threatening to engulf me. I call out to you, but my voice is swallowed by the catacombs. I run blindly, desperate to escape the clutches of this subterranean labyrinth. The air grows colder, heavier, making it hard to breathe. My lungs burn, and I stumble, my legs heavy and leaden. The sound of my own ragged breathing fills my ears, and I can feel the darkness seeping into my bones. Just when I think I can go no further, I find the strength to push on. I have to escape this place. Not for me, but for all those who have lost their way here. For their sake, I will brave the darkness, endure the cold, and defy the catacombs themselves. But as I run, I hear a voice behind me, cold and merciless. "There is no escape," it whispers, and in that moment, I know the catacombs are right. I am lost, utterly and completely lost. As the darkness closes in, I can hear the keeper's laughter echoing through the tunnels. It's a sound that will haunt my nightmares forever. I try to scream, but no sound comes out. The catacombs have claimed another victim, and soon they will claim us all. With that terrifying scene coming to an end, I'll leave you for now, dear viewer, until we meet again in another chilling tale. Until then, beware the catacombs and the horrors that await those who dare to enter its shadowy depths. Remember, the darkness whispers to all of us, but only the brave or perhaps the foolish answer back. Until next time, stay safe and keep your wits about you, for who knows what lurking shadows may be watching, waiting for their chance to strike. Take care.